Now, in the last class, we discussed about what is a system. We started chapter 2, right? We started chapter 2 and we learned about what is a system, what is an information system, components, those stuff. And then we discussed some differences between manual information system and computerized information systems, right? So those basic stuff done and dusted. And next you have to start the system development process. And even for that, I think I gave you a brief idea, gave you a short idea using the building of houses to give you an idea, right? So let's talk about a real life example today. I told you we'll be talking about Cargills. So I'll tell you how you can start building a Cargills, building a software like the one used in Cargills. Okay, from the beginning. I'll tell you what should be done, what is done, who is doing it, everything. Okay. So if you just go through your textbook, okay, it's there in your textbook, the steps. System development life cycle, there is 6 stages given in your textbook, but actually there is another one also. It's like not 7, but we make it 7 by putting another feature there. Feasibility study. It's called feasibility study. Okay, it's like a sub-stage that comes between identifying requirements and designing. Okay, between the first and second stages given in your textbook, you have this thing. We'll learn about that. We'll learn. Tell you. Okay. So, guys, if you want to build a system like the Cargill's software, you have to understand first. You have to understand what they need, what the staff at Cargill's, what they need to carry out their activities. Okay, what should be included in the software? How the software should be designed? What are the features expected in the software? What does the cashier want? What does the supervisor want? What does the manager want? So likewise, you have to identify what is necessary. Okay, first we have to identify what is necessary to build the software. Then we can make planning, and build the software. So the first stage, like I told you in the last class, if you want to build a house, first you write down, or first you do a brainstorming, right? How your house should be, what should be there. Those things come in the first stage, identification of requirements. So that is the first stage. That is the first stage of system development or software development. So you have to identify what is necessary, what should be there in the software that you're going to build. Okay, so sometimes, in your software, now we're going to build the software for Cargills, right? So let's say at the cashier, we're going to we'll be using POS, point of sale system, right? Mostly at the cashier, we use a point of sale system. So at Cargill's, the people at the cashier, no, there are cashier people working, right? So you can go and ask them. You can go and ask them, what are you doing? What are you doing at the cashier? What kind of activities you're doing? And if you have a software, what would you expect in the software? What are the features that you would expect? How should the software behave? Things like that. Okay. So to gather these requirements, to collect requirements from a client, we have different methods. Okay. So this is how it works. Normally, if Cargill's wants a software for their organization, if Cargill's wants a software, they will call a software company. They would call a software company, or they would request a software company to build a software, to build a system. So let's say the manager of Mavanalla Cargill's. I'm starting with Mavanalla. Okay, I'm from Mavanalla. So let's say Mavanalla Cargill's manager is calling the software company and they're saying, "Hi, I'm from Cargill's. We need a computerized system for our business. So can you guys build one for us?" So this can happen in two ways. One is they could be using a very old manual method. Manual method means like bill books and writing and stuff. Or else they could be using an electronic system like a computerized system, but maybe that's not good enough. Maybe they want a better system, so they are contacting another software company. Okay, with two things. So let's say they already have a computerized system. Okay. I'll talk about both. When we are discussing certain things. So now Cargill's manager is calling the software company and saying, "We need a software." So from the software company, mostly the deal will be handled by an analyst. Okay, normally an experienced person. So that person will say, "Okay, I'll pay a visit." Right? So the analyst will visit Cargill's. They want a system. The best way is to visit the client's place and get an idea. So there it starts. Okay, now in your textbook also they have mentioned five methods of gathering requirements. So the first method is through observation. Now, observation means you can observe an existing system and gather requirements. It could be manual or it could be logical, means software based. Okay, you can look at another person's software and get some idea. That is also observation. Or else you can go to the client's place. Now we are building a software for Cargill's. So for observation, we can go to Cargill's. We can go to Cargill's and we take a look at their business activities. Okay, the person from the software company will take down notes. Okay, they go to Cargill's and they just stand around a corner and observe what is going on here and there. So they don't disturb anyone. They just observe what is going on in the cashier, what is going on in the kitchen. There's no kitchen, right? what is going on at the meat stall, what is going on at the vegetable stall, what is going on in the pharmacy, how are the things managed in the warehouse. So likewise, um, a person from the software company will go there physically and observe and then take down notes about the business. Second step is you interview, means you ask questions from the people working in that organization. So the person from software company, the analyst, would go to Cargill's and interview the people working there, the staff mainly. The people working at the cashier, the people who are supervisors at the pharmacy, salespeople. So likewise, even the manager interviewing and asking questions. What do you need in the software? Okay, if you need a new system, what are the improvements you are expecting? What are the things you are expecting from the software? What should be done? All these things you ask from the staff, and you mark them down. Okay. After that, see, sometimes when you're asking questions, there is a problem. Sometimes, okay, not always. Sometimes, see, some employees, they don't talk openly. Two reasons. One could be, they could be an introvert. Okay, they don't talk too much normally itself. So that's okay. Two, some people don't talk in front of the manager or the supervisor. They're like a little bit afraid to talk openly in front of the superiors. So, if the business analyst who gathers data, if the business analyst thinks like, okay, people are hiding something, then they create a questionnaire. That is the third option. Questionnaire is like a passive interview. It's like an interview, but not face to face. Whatever the question I want to ask you, I write them down. I put them in a piece of paper. Okay, but it's not one piece of paper. Like there'll be a lot of questions, right? It's like a booklet, a lot of questions, and we hand over those questions to everyone in Cargill's. Everyone at Cargill's will get a questionnaire. So you have to fill them. Questionnaire means it's a set of questions, okay? Questionnaire means it's a set of questions, that's all. So you give the questionnaire to the employees and you ask them to fill it, to fill the questions without mentioning their names. You don't have to mention who you are, just fill the answers only. Then, if you say it like that, then you are able to collect confidential information, like whatever people were hiding. They would not be afraid to put it on paper because they're not putting the names, right? So their identity will not be revealed. So that is a good thing, isn't it? Yeah. So there we use questionnaires to collect confidential information. And then to understand about how they do their bookkeeping. Bookkeeping means accounts, mainly. Okay, not only accounts, mainly. How they manage their accounts, taxes, and stuff like that. So to understand these things, we get a copy of their existing documents. Whatever the documents that they are currently using, we get a copy of them. That is what the fourth one is about. Document sample collection means that we get a copy of their currently available documents just to get an idea, to understand how their bookkeeping is done, how their accounting is done, so that we can implement the system in our computerized program, right? So it's like that. So gathering requirements, we talked about four things now. One, you observe, you go there physically and you observe how the business is going on and get an idea. And then you interview people, you talk to them one-to-one, face-to-face, and get some idea. And then we hand over questionnaires and get them filled if you want to collect confidential data. And number four, to understand their bookkeeping activities, right? Mainly accounting stuff. We take a sample of their existing documents, currently used document. And number five is a little bit different. Okay, number five is not the regular. It's like now this software companies. They are not like other products. Software is not like other products. It's like very profitable. Okay, easy money. I'll tell you how it is easy money later. Okay, in the last stage, I'll tell you. It's like this. If you build a software once, let's say for a supermarket, if you build a software once, then you can sell that one software to many customers. To many customers, you can sell the same software. So your effort is only once. Okay, after that, you're just using it. Okay, so prototyping, the fifth method of gathering requirements is prototyping means creating a dummy, showing a dummy, a model. Prototype means model. Okay, so prototyping in gathering requirements means after doing all those four stages, those four stages that we talked about, observation, interviews, questionnaire, and document collection. See, we have an idea now, right? We have a good idea about how their business is going on. So using this, we create a dummy, a model. Okay, not a real software, just a model. Rough sketch, sometimes using a pencil, most of the time using a software, okay, graphics software. We create a model, okay, like a drawing, and you show it to the customer. Like your software will look like this. These features will be there. If you click on this will happen. If you click on that will happen. If you click on this and this will happen, and that will happen, and this will happen, and that will happen. So, see, you create a model. You create a model using the currently available data and show it to the client. Show it to the Cargill's manager. Is this something similar that you want? Does this look like what you want? Okay. So if they like the model, our work is easy. The work of software developers is easy. Why? Because they are satisfied with the model, and we can quickly go to the next stage, right? So that is prototyping, guys. Creating a model and showing it to the customer. All right. It's like, you're building these things for, what is that, exhibitions at school. You build stuff, right? After that, stage 2, designing the solution. So before we design the solution, I told you, right, there is a stage between gathering requirements and designing. That is feasibility study. Feasibility study. Okay. Feasibility means possibility. Okay, possibility. So you are checking the feasibility. You're checking the possibility of whether the software company can go forward with this project or with this company. So feasibility study is done in several in several subcategories. One such category is economic feasibility. Economic feasibility, and the other one is technical feasibility. The other one is organizational feasibility. There's another one called legal feasibility. So likewise, there's many. There's many. Right? Mostly we talk about the first three that I told you: economic feasibility, technical feasibility, and organizational feasibility. So from these three, economic feasibility means, after collecting all these requirements from the client, from Cargill's staff, you have collected the requirements now. What should be there in the software and how the software should behave, all these things, you have got an idea. So after getting all those ideas, you have to put it into a document. You have to put in a document and get it signed. Agreement, contract. So, when you're finding out these things, like using these requirements, if you want to build a software, then how much cost will it occur? There are 5 people in the team. It's going to take 3 months. So 3 months salary for 5 people. Okay, this much. And yeah, those also are considered. Okay, salaries and see how much time it's going to take. Like if it's going to take 3 months, then the exact time period. At this time, the software will be delivered. So and so. Okay, so that stage, okay, after identifying these things, you analyze it. The requirements that you gathered, the data that you gathered from Cargill's, you analyze them, and you see whether customer can afford it. Now, customer has requested so many features, right? Customer has requested so many features in the software. To build those features, let's say it costs around 10 lakhs only for those features, special features. 10 lakhs. Okay. Now, you don't know, let's say, you don't know that it's going to cost 10 lakhs. You think the software will cost only around 5 lakhs. So after the project is done, if you say, I don't have money, I have only 5 lakhs, think about it. So that is why feasibility study is done before even starting the project. After collecting the requirements, a feasibility study is done to check those things. So the software company will provide a requirement document for all these requirements that you said. This much time will be needed, this much cost will be incurred. So likewise, all the details will be there. So economic feasibility means making sure, checking whether the client can pay. Checking whether the client can pay for the system. Okay, so we are talking about systems, right? So whether they can pay for the system. Okay, and technical feasibility. Now you better write these things down. Okay, it's not there in your textbook, but it's there in your syllabus, right? Economic feasibility means checking whether customer can afford the project. And second, technical feasibility. Technical feasibility means you're making sure you have all the technology, current technology, you have all the technology to build a software according to the client's requirements. Okay, you try to understand what the client wants exactly. Economic feasibility and technical feasibility, right? I'll just tell you in short. Economic feasibility, checking the budget, okay? Checking whether customer can afford the budget. And technical feasibility means a customer has given a lot of requirements. This feature should be there, that facility should be there, this should be there, that should be there. So technical feasibility means you are checking whether you can build such a system with all those facilities and features. Okay, you're checking whether you can build such a system with existing technology. Currently. So that is technical feasibility. And organizational feasibility is mostly about whether a computerized system can solve all of their problems. Whether a computerized system can meet all of their requirements. Now they are going for a new system to solve some problems, right? For advancement. So we are checking whether the new system would fulfill their new requirements, their problems. Okay. So those are the three feasibility studies. Better mark it somewhere. Okay. It's not there in your textbook, but it's there in your syllabus. All right. You can find it in the teacher's guide also. Here, so 1 stage, 2 stage done, not the second stage, but 1.5, something like that. Gathering requirements, okay. Next, you do a feasibility study, possibilities. So if the feasibility studies fail, you don't go to the next stage. You don't design it. Why? Because it's not possible. Okay. So if the feasibility studies are good, okay, you go to the next stage, designing your algorithm or solution. So in the design phase, we spend a lot of time. Mostly. A software development process spends a lot of time in 2 stages. One is the designing phase, and the other is testing phase. Testing and designing take a long time. Other stages are quick. Okay, other stages of software development, they are quick. All right, let's talk about designing. Okay, so in the software development phase, like software development life cycle, first we gather requirements. We talked about that, right? We gather requirements in many methods: observation, interviews, questionnaires, document collection, and prototyping models. After you collect those requirements, you do an analysis. You analyze the requirements given by the customer. In this case, Cargills. So you analyze the requirements given by Cargills and identify what the system would be like and how much cost it would incur, how much time would it take, what technology should be there, all these things. So that is the feasibility study. You're doing a study whether you put a budget. You put a budget for the requirements and you ask the customer, can you afford this? Okay, can you afford this budget? And then technical feasibility, you check whether you have the current requirements to build that software. And third is organizational feasibility, means after building such a system, will that system solve the problems of Cargills? Okay, will the new system solve their problems? You do a study on that also before building the system. Okay, so if these are good, if these feasibility studies are good, right, if these checks are done and you're satisfied, you go to the designing phase. So like I said earlier, designing phase and testing phase take a lot of time in the system development process. Okay, so in the designing phase, you have a lot of things going on, a lot, right? So this is where now we'll be learning in detail in chapter 1. Okay, we haven't started chapter 1. This is where we write algorithms. This is where we draw flowcharts, pseudocodes in the designing phase. Okay, we draw a lot of diagrams. You know, it's like when you're talking to someone, when you show them a paragraph and explain certain things, they'll understand it up to a certain extent. But when you show them a diagram and explain, it's going to be more clear, right? Like if I give you a paragraph and explain something, let's say you're going to grab like 50%, you can understand 50% of it. So what if I show you a diagram and explain something? Would it be more than that or less than that? You tell me. Yeah, more or less. Yeah, obviously, right? Rather than showing you a paragraph, if I show you a diagram, you can understand better, right? So that's the idea. That's the idea. In the design phase, you draw a lot of diagrams to understand how the software will be designed, how the software will behave, so and so. Don't think too much how to draw those diagrams, what are the tools we're going to use. But no, wait. Don't think too much. Okay, not yet. All right. And we'll be learning all the necessary stuff. I'll teach you, and not too much, right? So diagrams, one thing, and one of the most important things happening in the design phase is the designing of interfaces, designing of user interface. User interface. Okay, what's an interface? What's an interface? An interface means whatever is visible to the user, the software part, the screen, whatever appears on the screen. If you open a particular software, if you open an app, if you open a software, whatever is visible to the user is called the interface. Okay, whatever is visible to the user is called the interface. All right. So it should be attractive, right? The interface should be attractive, should be easy to use. Customers should be able to use the software easily, right? They should be able to find things easily, find their functions easily, get their work done quickly. So we should design an interface in such a way that it's easy for the client to get their work done. Okay, so that is where these features that we consider now. For a okay, let's say take WhatsApp for example. I'll talk about WhatsApp. You know WhatsApp, right? So I'm talking about. If you open WhatsApp, you might remember some time ago, like think like 7 or 8 months ago, the status, calls, those tabs were on top, on the top side. But now those sections are at the bottom, right? Like status and calls and everything is in the bottom. Earlier it was on top. So why did they bring it to the bottom? Do you know why? Do you know why they brought it to the bottom? Can you guess? It's like this, right? Um, I'll have another device to show you. Okay, I'll just use this one. Look at this. Let's say this is your smartphone, all right? If I'm holding it like this, see, if I'm holding it like this with one hand, which is easier, tapping here or here? If I want to move to the next tab, clicking here is easier or just tapping here is easier. See, I can move with my thumb, right? It's easier. So you see, this is what you think about, all right? So, you know, in most of the companies, right, in most of the software companies, they have a separate job for the interface designer. Okay, they should be creative, right? It's called UI UX designer. UI UX means user interface and user experience designer. Nowadays, you have a separate job for that. Why? Because that is so important in a software. That is what the customer sees. That is what the customer sees. So that should be the best, right? The user interface should be the best. That's what the customer is looking at. Like when you give them the software, they're like, oh wow. What do they say wow at? They say wow at the interface, not at the functions. Okay. It's like, when you buy some snacks from a shop, when you buy some snacks from the shop, or when you buy a cake, something sweet or even spicy. See, first you eat with your eyes, right? Like, wow, you haven't even eaten it, you haven't even had it, but you're like, oh my god, it looks so good without even eating it, right? You get that feeling. So the interface, the outer appearance is so important, even in a software. Okay, not only the cake, even in a software, the outer appearance, it matters a lot. So that is also designed in this stage. User interface is also designed in this stage. Okay, so there'll be several interfaces. Now, even for WhatsApp, you have several interfaces, right? If you If you open WhatsApp, the first interface is all the chats. You can see all the chats. You can move to another interface where you can see statuses. You can move to another interface where you can see the calls. Yeah. And if you tap on a chat, another interface opens. The chat opens. That's another interface. So likewise, see, for every feature that you give, interfaces should be designed. So that's one thing. Okay. Interface is designed, right? Diagrams about the software structure. And then in this stage, the hardware and software components required to build that system are identified. Now, for Cargill's system, computerized system, what are the hardware components you might need? Yeah, what do you think? You have seen. Anyways, you need a monitor, right? You need a monitor. Yeah, okay, very good. UPS, monitor, a computer. Yeah, keyboard, mouse, keyboard, mouse, printer, a post printer, bill printer. You need a bill printer. You need a display unit. You need an automated cash drawer, a registry system, cash registry. So likewise, there are several hardware components. Oh, I missed that thing. Barcode reader. Yeah, and the printer is sometimes dot matrix, sometimes thermal. Depends. Most of the time it's dot matrix because it's cheap. Dot matrix is cheap, and most of the Cargill's outlets use dot matrix. Right. So guys, you can understand dot matrix printers. You know, if you closely look at the build, you can see dots. Each character is built using dots. Okay. So those are hardware. What about software requirements? No. Okay. You need a software requirement. Like you have a computer, you have a monitor, keyboard, mouse, UPS, everything is there. The computer should work, right? You should be able to start the computer, work with it. So you need an operating system. You need an OS. Yeah. So most of the computers in Sri Lanka, not only in Sri Lanka, even the world, most of us use Windows. So you need Windows operating system for the computer first. So that is one of the main software requirements. And then to run the printer, you have to check whether you need driver software. So likewise, no, don't think about these things too much. Okay, it's like, remember it like this: you're identifying, you're think of it like this: you're identifying the necessary hardware and software requirements. Okay, you're identifying the necessary hardware components and software components. So those things are identified in this stage. So what are the things done in this stage so far? Drawing diagrams to show the behavior of the software, how the software works. And then designing interfaces, user interface. And third, you identify the hardware and software requirements, components. And then you draw these structures for the database. So the database is important. So you design the database, draw the structure of database stuff. And another important thing in this designing phase, designing stage, is the planning of test cases. Writing test cases. What are test cases? Test case means like how your system, how the software should be tested after you build it. You haven't built it yet. Okay, you haven't built the software yet. You're just still planning. Okay, you're still in the designing phase. But after building it, after building the software, how you should test it. What are the features that should be tested? How should you do the testing? Those things are marked. Those things are written in this stage itself. In this stage itself, those things are marked. Why? Because it's easy then. Right? It's easy. After you develop it, you can quickly do the testings. So test cases are also planned here. So those are the main activities in this stage, guys. I'll walk you through those things once again. Number one, drawing and writing the structure of the software, how the software works. Two, designing user interfaces. Three, identifying necessary hardware and software components. And four, after the requirements, you can design the database. And then 5 or 6, you can work on the test cases. You can plan on how you're going to test the system after building it. So we have come up to like the third stage. We're still in the third stage. Okay. We started with the system development life cycle. First stage was identifying the requirements. Okay, gathering requirements. So you gather requirements from the client, observation, interviews, questionnaires, document collection, prototyping. After collecting the requirements, you analyze them and do feasibility studies. Economic feasibility study. So that will check the budget. If the budget is okay with the customer. Technical feasibility, checking whether you have the technology to build the system. Organizational feasibility, checking whether the proposed system, the new system that we are going to build, will solve the customer's problems. Done. Then you go to the next stage, designing the solution. So in the designing phase, you draw the structure of the software, how the software will work. You design the interfaces, very important. And you identify the hardware and software components necessary for the system. And you design the database. And you plan the test cases, how the software should be tested after building. Okay, so designing is done. After that, you go for the coding phase. Next stage, coding the system. So coding is easy. Trust me, it's easy, guys. Coding, we have several software developers, but we have only a few engineers. Trust me. We don't have a lot of engineers. We don't have a lot of software engineers. We have a lot of coders, developers, we call them, DevOps. Okay, so see, developers are the ones who write code. They can write code. Software engineers also can write code, but they can do more than that. They do the planning phase. Planning is very important. Okay, so see, when coding, in the coding stage, you select a particular programming language. Okay, it will be already selected in the designing phase. That will be decided. So in the coding stage, just implement it. Just code it. Okay, build the software. Actually, you build the software in the coding stage. Okay, according to the diagrams, according to the plan that you made, you code the software. After coding, after you build the house, what do? Testing. That is the next most important thing. Testing phase. Right. So testing and debugging, that's the next stage. Testing and debugging. Right. Now, even in the testing phase, we have 4 stages to talk about. Okay, unit testing, integration system, acceptance. There's a few things going on. So, okay, guys, I'll stop here. I'll see you in the next class. Okay.